I was in Galatians 1, not even a whole verse. And I'm like, oh, there's so many things that we are afraid to tackle because I think the fear of hell has kept us crippled. Where you're like, oh, I'm going to hell if I believe this, or if you say this, or if you question this. And really, what I've learned in the process of my study is so much of what we have issues with is our master's house that is in our head. And it goes all the way back to Abraham, all the way back to the father of the faithful. He was called on so many levels, out of so many levels of mental, physical, emotional, systemic oppression. And Yah tells him, and this is my, if you're going to hear me say it for the rest of my life, lech lecha. He says, go for you. Go for your sake up. And he tells him, he's like, leave your kinsmen, leave your country, leave your father's house. And he's telling him, like, you have to step out of this way of thinking and trust that I'm going to rebuild your mind and rebuild your relationship with me, because what you thought you had for 70 years was not quite what I had for you. And that can be such a it can be an overwhelming feeling. And in that time and process for me, I was in that same space where I was like, am I just angry? Am I just, because, am I just questioning, is my whole world falling apart? And am I calling all of these things back to the table? Or were there areas of me that I was suppressing because I didn't understand, or because nobody else was seeking to understand in this way? If you don't know anything about Royal Roots, that's how it came to be. I was like, I'd see one consistent thing here. Men marry women, women have children, those children have to be taught. But before those children can be taught, how can a woman teach a child anything if she doesn't know it? And the one person needs to know every part of the law, everyone, if she has the children, first crack at them, first 5 years, Torah, those children are yours, you're weaning them, you're nursing them, you're training them in the way of Torah. If I don't know the whole thing, then I've created an ineffective child. I have done them no service. Men too, of course, they have to know the whole thing, but I'm saying, so this idea that women can't be taught, thus women can't teach, and I have to learn this from a male, there's nothing a man can tell me about being a woman, just like there's nothing a woman can tell a man about being a man. And so there's a special place reserved in the structure of scripture for the woman to learn. Literally, everybody says, suffer not a woman to teach or usurp authority over man. Okay, bam, that's it. And everybody ever talks a part where it says, let the women learn. Let them. If you learn, guess what you're going to do? What is she learning for? Is she learning to just build up knowledge to herself, or is she learning to be an effective leader? And then when you get to the other verses where it's like, okay, the older women teach. Oh, what? So she can't teach, but then she can. What is happening? It's confusing. And so in order to learn, we have to know how to study. And in order to study, we have to be able to study all things. And so one of the things, and I mentioned this, I have always been a reader. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of truth. I'm not afraid of other religions. So much of religious oppression is rooted in, if you read that, you're going to go that way. Like, or not, or that's not going to happen. And if I read it, I will have a better opportunity of connecting with people who come from all backgrounds. If you limit a person to one spectrum of experience, then they only can be effective in that one space. Some of us are called to a much bigger spectrum of effectiveness. Some people are good. Like, some people are, I do paper airplanes, and I'm real good at paper airplanes. And some people are like, I build paper airplanes so I can build jets. There's just different levels to it. Like, it doesn't make any person less effective. I may be building a prototype so you can do this bigger thing. And sometimes we're limiting the experiences of those who want to learn because we're afraid of where that could take them. And we've seen what has happened in a lot of ways to our Black leaders over time. But I'll just throw this out here. The issue with our Black leaders was not them, it was our people. Because if our Black leaders had the opportunity to really learn outside of the oppressive state of their religious confines, I don't think they would have strayed in the way that they did. But just like if you have a child and you don't explain to them the way the world works, I will guarantee you that that child will stray. But if you are open and you are literally listening and holding space for their experience as they're growing in this changing world, they'll be more apt to follow in the path that you're going. A lot of people have left areas of religion, and people will continue to, and continue to, if we don't get it under our belt, that we can't be shying away from those things in scripture that are difficult or that go against what we know in our very, very small spectrum. And so most people know this also. I had a very contentious relationship with Paul very early on. I was almost completely non-messianic at one point, because I was like, well, if I have Torah and everything that's in the New Testament and Torah, what do I need the New Testament for? And that was kind of like my mindset very early on, because it was frustrating for me. It's frustrating that this individual was saying things that did not make sense, and I couldn't quite they didn't make sense to me. And so in this whole process, Yah puts two of the most frustrating books I've ever went through in my whole entire Hebraic walk in my lap, and is like, go. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Romans and Galatians, because they seem to undermine the structure of Torah if you read them on the surface, if you read them for what they are. And so what we've been doing here in this space, and what we will continue to do, especially moving through here, is we've been literally looking at, one, what words mean. Our brains have been programmed. People hate the word, like, what's programming? They've been programmed. They've been literally trained to think a particular way. And they've been trained to think that way because of language. Have been putting together a language program for our school district, a pocket in our school district here. And one of the things that I was discussing with Nefesha, and she had just recently read a book by Noam Chomsky. If you don't know who Noam Chomsky is, it's worth it, especially if you're interested in Hebrew language, because it does a lot of explaining what linguistics are, what it is, and how language works. We are the only creatures on this planet who have the ability to exchange in language, to process in language. It's not something that is looked at small by anybody else outside of, probably a religious circle. Everybody else is in awe at the ability that this is how we communicate. It does not mean that animals and things don't communicate. And I would even go as far as to say, it doesn't mean that because of our high intelligence that has dissipated over the years, that we were not able to communicate. I think we still do. That's just me. Communicate with animals and things. I've watched people train lions. Clearly there's communication. There is an exchange here, but the ability to articulate and to expand the brain, the mental universe, to expand it through linguistics is one of our greatest healing practices that we have. No other people, no other creature on the planet has the ability to take language, whether it's through reading or verbal, and literally change their whole lived experience. It's not possible. So with that being true, how we interact with words and how we interact with language, but specifically for the context of where we are right now, how we interact with the biblical text is very, very important. The same thing that can heal you can make you sick if you don't know how to handle it. I'll say it again. The same thing that has the ability to heal you can make you sick if you don't know how to handle it. And how can it make you sick? If you are sick, if your brain is sick, and you pick up something and you start trying to use that in a power or control way, it will be used to turn again and destroy you if you don't understand how to handle it. If you are not having your mind renewed by this living word, you will gather it to yourself to your own destruction. If you think I'm kidding, literally just read through the text. Literally read through the text. Like people, when you think of these people as like, oh, these people didn't know anything about God. No, they had Torah. They literally had God right in front of them and died and were destroyed. If you are not renewed in that process, in the process of interacting with the living word and a living God, you will be destroyed. And what we're seeing more and more, in my opinion, and specifically because we're in this space, I'll state it, amongst Hebrew Israelites, is destruction of people, both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because of people who don't know how to handle the word. It's powerful. It's powerful. And people on a very base nature, I've talked to old people, especially old Christian people. And when you try to explain to them that, like, yeah, I know that's how it was said, but they're like, so you telling me that a pastor will hold the Bible and lie? And I'll tell you, it's funny, I stole this from a lady called Nikki Tutorials. I don't even wear makeup, but I was watching Adele on Nikki Tutorials. Anyways, she said, is water wet? That's the response. You tell me a pastor will hold the Bible and lie, is water wet? Is it? Okay. So yes. And that's a hard thing, because that's something that we're still dealing with, because we're still trusting the handler over what the person is handling. If you look at what the person is handling, then you can measure the handler to what they're handling. Like, seriously. And so we don't do that. We are not yet equipped to do that, which is why there are people who are being destroyed in the same book that is supposed to be being healing. And what I mean by destroyed is you have people believing that because it's culture, it's kosher. Like, I can do it, it's cool. Like, and not looking at what is happening. So you can read, see that it's there, but not comprehend the consequences of the actions that now you are confessing to be culturally appropriate. Like, no. There's more to it. And then when you tell people, read into it deeper, it's like, oh, so you think you smart. Oh, so women can't read them. And you come with these. And so last time we met, I talked about how to deal with an argument, how to look at when an argument is off, because when you begin to read, it's going to offend people. And it was another conversation as we've been working on this literary curriculum, Nefesh and I, we came up with. It's still in our culture. We keep looking outward, and you keep saying white people, systemic racism, Europeans. But where is it being perpetuated? Now that you're out of the systems, and now that your mind is quote unquote free, why is there still oppression in free space? The oppression still exists in free space because the oppression is conducive to the control. And the control exists when I read, and then you tell me what I read is not true because it don't jive with you. And if I don't have the ability to not necessarily argue, because that's what I'm not going to do ever again. I'm not going to argue with you. I have to now deal with the cognitive dissonance that causes within me, to where I'm hearing one thing that you're saying, I've read one thing, and I have to make a choice. And oftentimes our choices are toward the people who are the most passionate. And it's very, very, very seldom that we choose the truth that's been revealed to us. Most people, and I've told people this, and they always thought I was like some kind of like anti-groupist person, or I was trying to like make people join the group. That I was like, hey, take your time joining these fellowships. Hey, I know you're lonely, but wait, let the Father do something that he's trying to do, because there's a beauty in the ability where everybody had this happen to them. It's a consensus amongst all people who are called out. Called out. When you're called out for the first time ever, for the first time probably ever for some of us, we were like, I'm not doing this because I feel it within me. I don't care if my mama's not doing it. I don't care if my daddy's not doing it. I don't even care if my pastor doesn't get it. The Most High spoke to me in his word, and I know, if don't nobody else know, I have to yield to what this is. Because we don't understand healing, and we don't understand that probably the most important component to healing is being able to trust yourself and love yourself, and to hear God from within, hear Yah from within. You didn't realize what Yah did in that moment, to where it gave you the confidence to not only trust you and all your brokenness, but also to trust what he was saying through all that brokenness. And it was in that isolated time that he was going to then build that up, so that when the time came that you had to come into community, that you would be one of the lights and the wholeness within the community, and not just another fragmented piece trying to join to somebody else to find your wholeness. But so many people we get stuck in that space of like, I'm lonely, I need somebody. And I also believe that the Father knows. So then he has set up very few, but a few people where he's like, all right, like we needed, just had to have a king. Oh, we needed a king like the other nations. So he was like, okay, but these people are flawed and they ain't gonna be right. I'm one of them. But they love me. So like, here, like everybody wanted a king. Everybody didn't. I was like, but I got you. And they're like, we need somebody like us. And he's like, okay, well, Saul. That didn't quite work out well. And he's like, David. Everybody's like, he was the best we got. Ever since then, it was just like all downhill. And so Yah has given leadership, but then in that process, we then do what? We abandon the work that was being done within us. And we either do one or two things. We try to cultivate it in somebody else. Or now we have something to complain about, because it's going to turn into. It's going to be one thing or another, unless it's a work of a collective. And so when we step into this space, one of the beautiful things is we're all on the same page. We're all doing the same work, and it's being bounced back from here